Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of Tabletopped. Today, we are talking about growing up, leveling in TTRPGs.
You had me worried for a second.
Yeah. I'm your host,
I don't
Nick.
want to grow up. I'm a Toys R Us kid.
And who are you?
I'm Rio. Doesn't work as a verse.
What about you?
I'm Shade.
And?
It's me, Franco.
Yeah, we're all going to be talking about leveling mechanics today and like how to have a way to progress your party that makes sense narratively.
Yeah, I was getting terrible oil changes until I leveled up my mechanic.
Me too.
Okay.
Franco did not appreciate
Franco is
that.
so judgy today.
No, it's no. Good. No. I like all these jokes.
Leveling mechanics are super weird in that I'm just going to kind of borrow one of the things that Brendan Lee Mulligan said, where he was like, if killing goblins made you better at magic, then magic schools would just have a bunch of goblins that you run in, you kill them all, and then you graduate as an archwizard. Like, what are we doing? Like, people become, level 20 in like a couple of in-game months and all that kind of stuff, which I think is true, for Dungeons and Dragons. But in a lot of games, it doesn't really match up with like story beats or whatever your characters are doing. So like, what are your like best experiences with leveling systems? What do you really like about certain systems? What do you want out of a leveling system?
Well, I think the best leveling system I've encountered is Monster of the Week.
Yeah, with new
where
playbooks.
You level up, you just get a new move based on moves you're already using.
Right. And you can sort of take moves from other classes too. So
to a limited amount.
Yeah, so it's kind of like I'm the warrior, but I've been doing a lot of reading, so I'm gonna do this
Be
thing.
the reader.
Yeah, so I'm gonna take this move that says that I have like a portable library with me or whatever.
I think what's nice about that game too is that like, because there is so much like, it's so narrative focused that I would think that like the keeper is really empowered to make sure all of those decisions make sense. Mm-hmm. Like, it's like, this is a really fiction driven game. Yeah. Like, we can't just have you can't just get that because you want it. Yeah. Like, there has to be a reason for you to be able to get that thing.
Yeah. And again, that's also like a table thing. Like, I guess the rules don't say like, you have to do it in a way that narratively makes sense. But yeah, it's a very easy system to be at the table like, it doesn't really make sense
like
for you to grab
that.
Yeah,
we've already been sort of, doing a tug of war on narrative. Yeah. So like it feels right to, like, it doesn't feel right for me to just say like, I want that because I want it.
Yeah,
not because it makes any sense. Yeah.
It's also nice because it's a fail forward mechanic instead of, rewarding the killing of the goblins. It's no, I rolled and I failed, so I get experience.
Yeah, I actually really love a failure-based XP system. Yeah, honestly.
Yeah, just like my real life.
Yeah, exactly. Sure. It's like, hey, you're bad at this, and now you're better at it.
That's why I have switched to only giving inspiration if you roll a negative, if you roll a 1.
Oh, so you're kind of
like... Your players can roll negative numbers? What kind of dice are you using?
I mean, yeah, you could.
Yeah,
you can roll negative numbers.
I rolled a negative too.
Yeah, but they roll a natural 1, you get inspiration. Yeah. That's the only way I give out inspiration now.
Yeah, that makes sense. But what about you, Shade? Is there a system or just like a general type of XP leveling system that you like?
Generally, I don't care much for XP, and I prefer more milestone-y leveling overall. Mm-hmm. Like, you complete an arc. Okay, you level up. I do really enjoy if it can be built into the moments, which I agree. Monster of the Week is great for that. But it also, strictly depends on the system. Like Monster of the Week, having someone that's level 1 in that game with a level 8 character, that's achievable. There's really not a disbalance or because it is so narrative focused. Having someone that is level 3 while someone else is level 6 in D&D
feels so different.
So bad.
Yeah. They're capable of so much more.
Yeah. Well, this is such a good point to bring up, is that a lot of systems, like OSR is pretty good about this, and like Monster of the Week and a couple
What do you mean by OSR?
Like OSR systems that I've played.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, I should say that. Thank you. OSR systems that I've played, and also some powered by the Apocalypse. Like Merkborg and some other one, Cairn and the hacks that you made and things like that. They kind of, when you level, it's not like your core self is becoming more powerful. It's more about just
there's no leveling in Cairn.
Yeah, exactly. Also. Because you're just getting items and
mostly
that stuff. But and like in Monster of the Week, like you were saying, Shade, the leveling system, like you don't get more health and you don't get really more damage because that comes out of items. You know, like that stuff doesn't really change that much. It's more just about flexibility and versatility.
Yeah.
I mean, doing stuff
getting
better.
more options too.
Yeah.
For the real pedants that are listening, we love you. There are ways to maximize your HP and hit abilities and damage and such through leveling.
Yeah.
But generally speaking,
Yeah.
I would love to play like the Karn kind of system, like, oh, you get more powerful the more items you find.
Yeah.
But in a cyberpunk universe where the more jobs you do, the more money you get, you can just buy
Cyberware.
new moves
Yeah.
based on your cyberware. And you're like, you don't ever level up.
Well, the TTRPG system for Cyberpunk, like what they do is that your health stays the same, but your like equipment gets better, your cyberware gets better. That might reduce the amount of hits you take, but your health sort of doesn't change.
Like in the original D&D, right? Like that was kind of it. Like it's money for XP.
Yeah.
Like where you
Right, because you didn't level up. Oh, you get this much experience, you can level up. It's like you have this much gold, you can now train
Yeah.
to this level.
Yeah.
I think it was still I think it was experience points because by then it was experience points, but it was basically like gold equaled experience points.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that for a second too, because I think that in original D&D they really cracked the motivation side of leveling in that you are incentivized to go get gold, which is to take you into the dungeon, which is so that everyone can play the game. And
there has to be a gameplay loop.
Exactly, and
every game.
And it built it into the loop of like, you go in, there's gold down there. Gold is what you use to level. And so it all kind of just makes sense, right?
Yeah.
Oh, did you hear about the gender neutral prospector?
No, what happened?
He found gold in them there hills.
jeez,
Them there.
I kind of like it. I like it.
It's pretty decent.
Shade, you were about to say something?
Honestly, I mean, it was really taking the piss as well. So, but just in a different way. It was,
What was it?
Yeah, it was just, oh, hey, GM, I didn't you read my backstory? I'm a noble, or actually my family has
lots
a
of money.
bakery.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to work at the bakery. Can I do that to earn gold and level up?
There you go. And that's the thing too, is like, how do you incentivize the type of gameplay that you're trying to experience at the table through
You can
leveling
only
as well?
you can only use gold that you earn from adventuring. You cannot use gold from any other
Monster
sources.
gold is different than commerce gold.
Yeah, you could have, I mean, for me, this feels like an easy fix of like, this town is run by a corrupt, duke or something, and all the money is taxed
that's
so
cool.
much.
Oh, I thought you were gonna say all of it's debased.
Oh, well, no, I was going to say, like, basically, like, whatever the gold with the marking on it is sort of like, since the Duke is so corrupt, it is meaningless, right? Because nobody can really trust the coin being worth value with such an unstable political figure minting it. So all of the gold that's historical gold in these dungeons don't have that mark on it. It spends real good, so you can go and make stuff out of it. So... Or maybe the Duke has hired you to make it so that the quality of gold in the coins doesn't go
Grab
down.
gold, send it to my mint so I can debase it.
Yeah, exactly.
Also pick up some zinc while you're down there.
We'll mix that in real nice.
I use milestone right now in my current 5e campaign. I think it's fine. I think they've been leveling it pretty quickly though. But the thing about for them to get the level, also like I hit like different tiers where you get like you need, I think they're at a tier now where they need 2 milestones to level up, and then like you need three to level up at a certain later point. And then they always have to return to town and then rest in town for like certain like downtime cycles or whatever
to level.
To level up, yeah.
So you're forcing essentially
Like them to slow down. Basically.
Exactly.
Like they can't level up like
change.
yeah, they can't level up while they're out on the road basically.
Yeah. Okay.
How are you doing milestone rewards? It's like, oh, a named villain, or there's a goal they have to name?
I've peppered them throughout the map, and yes, sometimes there are things where it's like they'll be like, does that feel like a milestone? Like I feel like that was one, because sometimes it has been the case where like I think this one time recently they went down into a dungeon because I forget why. They were like, oh, there's like magical artifacts down here. There's a guy that wants you to destroy magical artifacts and like bring them to you. Bring the artifacts to him so that he can destroy them. And they're like, sure, yeah, we'll do that. Sure, whatever. And then they finished that dungeon and they were like, did we get a milestone for that? And I was like, no. Like, that's just like a little dungeon that you
This is
cleared
just
out.
a weirdo who wants to destroy magic items.
Yeah, this isn't like a big like thing or whatever. But if it's something where like you go down and you do some like legendary thing, you like, you know, destroy this vampire that's been like terrorizing this countryside or whatever. But you do that by hiring her to your vampire nightclub after negotiating with her. So that's fun.
That sounds like a true story.
That's what happened. But something that I made a milestone recently that I hadn't really thought about it, like I hadn't planned for it to be a milestone, was them destroying this faction that they had met like ages ago. And then there was like, they were like, okay, now we're going to fight them. And they were basically, I mean, they know this now, but they were Devas basically. And the first time they faced them, I think they were like level 4.
Yeah.
And so like anytime they hit them, they were just like absolutely fucking walloped. And it was basically like, this is a deterrent.
Yeah.
Because they were kidnapping the archpriest. And so they were like, okay, yeah. And so they were like, okay, these paladins are crazy powerful. They're awful people. And then they were like, okay, like we kidnapped the archpriest, and then these guys have been like, you know, dispersed or whatever. But they didn't, I think they had heard rumblings of like foreign sounding people going around and causing trouble.
Yeah.
And then like, okay, that's interesting. Whatever, we're going to do something else.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, that was them the whole time.
Yeah.
And then they started like terrorizing this like pirate community. And then they befriended one of the pirates, like pirate leaders. And they were like, hey, can you help us with this? And we're like, yeah. And they've landed on the boat and they were like, oh, it's those guys from forever ago. But now we're like level 9, so we can beat them. But it was very like a hard slog.
Yeah.
So I think that sort of thing where it's like, okay, you've destroyed a faction. Like, that's a milestone. Yeah. Why not?
Cool. Yeah, I find, because I also like what I'm doing in my campaigns is all milestone. And I've kind of always done that, mostly because I don't like the math of having to add up encounters and like kind of send that out. Like, that's just not interesting to me as a GM. But the only thing I have when it comes to milestones is that there's like this weird conversation that I have with my players. And both of these conversations I've had every time, which is, so like, we've been level 2 for a little while. Like, what's that milestone looking like or whatever? And that feels sort of weird in that way.
I have a solution for that.
Okay.
Make every single day in your system last about a full calendar real life year.
Yeah.
And they will never ask you what the fuck they're leveling up, because they don't
like,
have
hey,
a fucking long rest.
It's only been 6 hours. But that's like the thing is that this in-game time, in-game time and out-of-game time doesn't flow very well together, so it becomes like a weird conversation piece.
They did something in Waterdeep recently, and I'd say we probably did spend the last quarter of a year in this day. Probably. And I was like, and you guys level up, and they were all like, really? And I was like, you did. We just spent 3 fucking real life months doing this. You level up, guys.
Right. And then, because this is the other thing I always do I always have sort of a conversation around where people are like, man, this feels like very easy now because milestones can be given out too fast, and then you have just like
I've encountered that
crazy powerful characters.
I definitely encountered that with the 13 islands when you guys were bopping around. It was like, you get a milestone every island. You've only been here for 40 days, and now you're fucking like crushing everything. And it's like, I mean, it was fun, but it was kind of like, that didn't make any sense.
Fun rule of thumb that I've heard about but haven't had a chance to play with is taking levels away based on time.
Oh my god.
Because like, you're in this moment, you're adventuring, so you're a level 8 adventurer, but then you're taking some time to rest. You're not your peak anymore. You come back down a little bit.
So you're basically rubber banding, so that just like they basically, like the famous Paula Abdul song, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. We come together.
1 step forward, 1 step back.
Gotcha. Okay.
You just kind of, and then that way it's like, we can play this game for a very longer time. Yeah. Because after this adventure, you got to level 8, but now we're going to start at level 6 on the next one with the same characters.
This has been a few months or whatever.
It's been a few months. You haven't been exercising those muscles.
That's
as much.
I don't like that.
Oh, okay. I don't mind that if you've got like, so that's an interesting idea for like a legacy game where large jumps in time are going to be happening.
I think it's also good if you have a huge pool of characters that you're pulling from. I think that sounds great. But yeah.
I don't mind it even if it's 1. I think that the only problem that I see with it is just the admin of managing players that are going to be going through multiple levels in like an arc or whatever.
Yeah.
Because you're going to get back up to that 8 probably during the adventure that they are going back out to, and maybe even 9 because it's a
Then
new
you start
adventure.
over at 1 every time.
And I just like the amount of time it takes for like us to get a group to be like, okay, everyone level up, or everyone, we're doing level 6 or something.
It's like, okay, now everybody unlevel.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, I guess I'll unlevel. And then this is what that looks like. And you're like, okay, now I have to learn how to unlevel too.
Yeah, I think that's the only problem for me with that system. It's just the admin of trusting players to
Then
do
you're
that.
right. You start over at first level every time.
So I'm glad you mentioned the 13 Isles because I did something sort of similar before we started your Argot game, and I really like the idea of having essentially a quest board that dictates your level, because that does also harken back to the old days of like, well, you need the XP, you need the gold rather. So like a homebrew that I did, I had just a running, and it would update as well. So if they uncovered something and they're like, oh, that's kind of a big thing that maybe we need to contend with, onto the quest board it goes. And if you scratch that off, you can gain 1 level. And they had more than 20 things, so they theoretically could go beyond that. And I had whole devices
Wow,
on.
they could go to D&D Beyond?
Sponsored by.
Never.
So, oh, hold on now.
Never have I ever.
I'll take that gold.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't turn down a
experience for gold.
paycheck right now, bro.
So,
Watts, if you're listening, we will sell out.
well, there's responsible levels of things that you
We
can
will
do. is all I'm
responsibly
saying.
sell out.
We'll work harder than the 90% of those staff that you fire.
That's not at all what I was saying.
I'll take it
The
out.
money you'll save on our salaries based on all those employees you just let go.
Anyway, quest board, and if they went beyond the 20th level with this, it became a feats thing.
Well, this is what I was going to say is that
I dated a guy with a feet thing.
That's really funny. Can't give that away for free, Rio. Well, the thing that I've been thinking about quite a lot is the difference between levels and rewards. And level is like a type of reward you can give your players as like, you know, you're going through this game and now you're level 2 or something. But I think that feats, even though it would totally break the balance in 5e, but like something like a feat in between certain arcs or whatever, but you don't want to level them up that hard level until it makes more sense narratively or whatever. Be like, hey, you have that, you like when you did in Waterdeep, you guys went into that worm place and we all got fucking destroyed, and then we all got out, and you were like, okay, you all have the lucky feat because you barely survived that.
That was Argot.
No, it was.
No, I've never given out the lucky feat like
Yeah,
that.
it was in the tunnels. It was where we first saw the mind
Oh
flayer
shit!
the
Did I
first
give
time.
you all the lucky feet?
Yeah, we all
You
have
gave
lucky.
everyone the lucky feet, and I hated it. So it was like, I use
loved
lucky.
it.
I use lucky. It was like,
Well, lucky
8
is-
uses of lucky per session.
Lucky is tough as a feat just in general because of that. But
I actually
I
banned
loved
Lucky at my table.
Oh, really? Yeah. But like giving out a feat after they go through something specific seems like super a great way to get around that. However, then you have like feet bloat, which is another thing.
Bloated feet.
You
Yeah.
gotta get
bloated
that
feet.
Epsom salt.
Yeah, gotta do a little foot bath. But yeah, so what do you guys think? Like, how can you reward or give them the sense that they are improving as characters without leveling them?
Magic items and feats in general. There's also like there are whole sections in every.
I also like skill proficiencies.
Yeah,
Like, I really liked
proficiencies.
when you had skill ranks instead of like this new system that they have in 5th edition. It's like, oh, okay, you've got another 2 ranks in sleight of hand because you did a lot of practice pickpocketing and forging documents.
Do you find that, again, this is my only question about like any of your ideas right now, which is the maintenance of the character sheet. Because like when you're giving out...
Why do you need this many things? I think I would think that you wouldn't really like I would just not give them. Like if I could obviously if I could run a different system, I would be running a different system, but I'm not going to give my players any more than 5e is already giving them, because why would I do that? They're already getting so much.
Yeah.
They're already like having analysis paralysis every time they move an inch.
Yeah.
So like what's the point? Like why?
Right. Yeah.
I thought we were talking about not like out of 5th edition.
Yeah, we
level.
can, just in general, it's like
It feels like we're in 5th edition right
just as,
now.
yeah,
At the
it's just a
moment,
general
we kinda were
basis.
there, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like I get what you're saying, but there are certain games like Pathfinder and 5th edition and
Well, Pathfinder's all feat based.
yeah,
right?
but there's
Yeah.
also levels, right?
Yeah, but like, is it every other level you get a feat, or every level you get a feat? I forget
I
exactly
think
what it
it's
is.
something like that in 2e at least.
Yeah.
And
Which is tight. I don't know. Pathfinder's
Yeah.
fun because you get to customize your character really hard. I mean, that's cool.
Yeah, no, and I love that, but like, I guess my question is, if you're like, just don't give them that and like put these levels farther apart, which I totally agree with.
No, I wasn't saying that. I was just saying like I wouldn't like if I think in this bit what I was saying was in response to like a specific situation wherein you're playing 5e and you want to give them even more like in between level rewards.
gotcha.
I wouldn't do that.
Yeah, no, and the reason why I said that is like to space out the actual leveling. So the leveling is very infrequent, and then these
just don't let them level.
rewards. Just don't let them level. Well, okay, then this is a great segue, which is then. Do you all, as GMs, find it that like players either get not bored, but they know what they can do and they're like, I want to do other stuff? Like, do you find that mechanically they get tired of not like, because when someone asks me like, hey, we've been this level for a while, like, what do you think about next level? When's that going to happen? What I'm hearing is I'm getting bored with my mechanics. You know what I mean?
Have you asked them why they're asking?
Yeah, most of the time it's like, oh, because at level 3 we get our subclass or whatever, and in 5e specifically. But just across the board, usually it's because they're looking to further
get the next thing.
Yeah, to further their build.
Well, I think there's a lot. Oh my god! Edit. I think the reason a lot of people
never
play
does,
these games is to get that level reward. 'Cause that's like, oh, I played the game this long, I've gotten to this level. If you're not leveling, like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Telling a story?
Fuck
that.
Fuck that.
I want
Fuck that shit.
I want points. I want magic. I want monsters.
Well, this is really interesting because there was someone at
On Dungeons and Dragons.
there's someone at my table who is a professional storyteller, right? She does a lot of like intimacy coordination. She's actually been on the podcast. Kaylee shouts out. But one thing she said once was like, I do like, shared storytelling at work every day, which agreed, it's sort of a niche job. But she was like, without the dice, I'm just doing my work at the table. Like without the mechanics, the game of it, it's just the work, right? Of working with each other to tell a compelling story. And so again, very niche like situation in her part. Sure. But at the same time, it's like, oh, that is an interesting thing, that the reason why we're sitting down to playing is because it's within this like system that we've all agreed to play, and it is a game. And so
it's like
part of the game is the rewards.
Well, it's like, I feel like part of the game too is like interacting with the world, because I mean, like, yeah, a certain part of it is probably like role playing and storytelling and that type of thing, but another part of it is kind of like, okay, let's like logically solve this situation. And I think maybe like the novelty doesn't have to come from your character sheet. The novelty can come from like how you're engaging with the world that's being presented.
Yeah.
So I would, like in this straw man that you constructed of like a player that only finds interest in progression or whatever, like I think that, it's just like, okay, let's play Pathfinder, I guess.
Yeah, I was gonna say that also may be a thing for a different system, because it sounds like Warhammer would be great for her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Fuck all on the story on that. You're doing a bunch of math.
Yeah. I think that she's very interested in the story, but she's interested in the sort of randomness the system allows for.
Yeah.
Because it's like, then it's a game and not just us telling a story.
Yeah.
Right.
But yes, I understand what you're talking about there completely, because then you're purely using mechanics to tell whatever story, and usually the story happens in retrospect. One thing about it too, though, is like, I kind of like what you were talking about, Franco, where your how to interact with the world can change, but like your character level like may not, so
Step into my level-less corner. No levels here.
Yeah, because I think that that's really cool, because like you can even say that like now you have like a reputation with the town guard, and so like if you want to talk to them, it might be easier or something, and that's not a level, it's not really a feat.
Oh, you could play a game where your reputation with other people is your level.
Yeah, you could do
Well,
that.
like,
This
it doesn't-
quest, these people have a reputation.
Are friendly to you. Yeah.
No, well, yeah, like you can have progression. Like, so like in Karen 2e, there's a lot of different types of progression that you can do, even though there's no levels. But, you can be like, okay, I'm going to train really good to be good with this sword. Or I'm going to do, I think one of the examples was like, it's like, okay, I want to use this net to like capture somebody. He's like, okay, that's like probably like a dex save.
Yeah.
And then you're kind of doing that to see how well you do that. And then after enough times of doing that every single combat that you're in, and however many times you like fail or succeed or whatever, and then maybe with a little bit of extra training, you no longer have to make that save every time you throw the net. You just do it.
Yeah.
In my contestation, or I would
Contesting that.
This is my confession.
My goddamn. My opposition to that is no one wants to track that shit. No one wants to.
Well, just track it. Just do it then.
Well, right, but I mean,
Just don't
I'm
have
saying,
levels. Just track this number.
well, I'm saying like if you're not if you're playing a system that is less like, just imagine a system where you don't have anything, like you don't have anything or whatever, and you're just like, okay, I need you to track one, or like not even like I need you to track one thing. It's like it feels like you've done this a lot of times. Let's see if maybe you just do that without making the save or whatever. Like it doesn't have to be mechanized, but like why not track it? Like what is the burden of tracking it?
But the burden is the complexity of it. So I have a net, I also have a sword, I also have a bow, I also have diplomacy.
Sure.
And now there are 5 things that you have to track on how many times you've utilized that each time.
I think it just depends on what the player wants to do. Like
I think that's super true.
I think it's like if the player is like, I'm really into the idea of like capturing people in nets all the time, like it's like my whole deal. It's like, cool, let's talk. Yes, Nick, that's a great example. Sure, that's a great example. Nick loves climbing monsters, and if you were in a game where you're like, okay, like I want to climb monsters, and it's like you always have to make a dex save because it's difficult to climb monsters.
Yeah.
At a certain point, it gets easier and easier to climb monsters.
I've been Shadow of Colossusing.
Yeah, you've been Shadow of Colossusing, and it's like, okay, like I'm really into the idea of doing this. Like if you're like, okay, I'm gonna sword fight this fight, I'm gonna diplomacy this fight, like it's just like not like focused or whatever. And so like you just kind of, I think it's like negotiation and conversation, and it's like, and then at a certain point you're kind of like, okay, you seem to really want to do this. Like let's start tracking this, and then maybe at a certain point we can give you this reward or boon or whatever.
This is really interesting because there's another person at my table, Derek, who is very much like, this is a game. And I'm going to learn the rules.
Sure.
And I'm going to play optimally, and I'm going to play this game the way that, and that's a super great way to approach these games too. And he really likes this kind of tracking because he's like, oh, I'm going to like slowly build myself to be like the thing that I want to do. And so like for him, very similarly, I sort of gave him a book of feats that he had to do because he's sort of like Heracles a little bit, like he's trying to like go through, and so I gave him some crazy like low odds stuff that he has to do in order for him to unlock certain things, that boons from his god that will affect him, and like one's a magic item and one's a feat that will come into play. And so he loves that because he's like, okay, now I can, how do I like use these mechanics to get this thing that I'm doing? But that's like a very specific person. I also know other people at my table who are like, what do I roll for that? Right, which is a different type of tracking.
I think that for me, that's because those are like a checklist of things, and that's way more. And this is may just be me, but that's way more attainable than I have to count how many times I have cast a spell. I have to count how many times I have used a net or climbed a monster, and I totally get the spirit of like, okay, well, this seems to be something you want to do. After a while, we're going to not have you roll it. Because I would say most rogues should not need to roll lockpicking.
Yeah.
At all. Like, I mean, it's you're a rogue.
Maybe at early levels, but later on.
Like there comes a point where, okay, we just know the rogue's going to be able to do this.
The uncanny dodge of lockpicking feats.
Or a bard with performance, or a ranger with tracking.
Yeah.
Survival or whatever. I totally am behind that spirit, but I do think that like when it comes down to, I got to track how many times I've done this thing that's a little like just very specific repetition of something. It's like counting arrows. I mean, I know that some people are really great about their inventory systems.
I am not.
And I know that others are not. And it's almost behooves you to just go, unless it's a specialty arrow, I don't care. Yes, of course you have arrows.
You can do that.
Yeah.
Well, Nick, when you were tracking, when you only had 10 things that you were able to have in your inventory, was that easier to keep track of than like the endless bag of encumbrance that 5e gives you?
So I will say item-wise, yes. where stuff was on my body required a little bit more brain power, because I was like, okay, I want to use this thing I have. I only have 10 things. Like you said, it's much easier to focus on the thing and find the things that you need. But then it was like, but that's like in my hip bag, and I have these other 2 things in my hands, so I have to like shuffle things around. I think that was the only thing that that had any friction for me. But to your main question, or the spirit of your question, yes, it was so much easier to track the 10 things.
Like you don't have to have things. You don't have to have it that way. I think the only thing that's important is just like what's in your hands.
Yeah, right.
But then like everything else
You
just
don't
kind
have
of
to
like
do the math to figure out how you got a thing from your hand to your backpack.
Yeah.
You can just be like, I'm going to put this in my backpack. I'm going to grab
unless it's really important at that very moment.
Yeah, exactly.
You're like, I just walked into the king's house. Oh, what's in your hands? Like, my sword is in my hand.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Yeah. Going back to this conversation though, and something I want to kind of talk
That
about.
gets to another thing. Sorry.
We'll write it down, because I want to talk about it.
why wouldn't it? Don't worry.
Oh, no, I mean, obviously you would have automatically, like, you don't have to narrate putting away the sword.
I've with a sword in our hand.
I've been in games where it's like, but you didn't
say you
specify
did.
that. I'm like,
No, I wouldn't do that.
off. Of course, this person did this thing.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
come on. There's a level of like.
Yeah, totally. No, I'm not a stickler for that.
No, I know you're not. I know you're not.
One thing though about this conversation that I am interested in talking more about, which is the sort of tension that you have of like who handles the actual weight of it. Is it the GM being like, oh, you've done this a lot, let's just say that you figured this out, or let's do like a small thing here. If you are successful here, then you will always be able to roll that. That's like a mental tax on you for just noticing like, oh, this person wants to climb monsters all the time, and maybe we address that.
I think it's like I want to. Like, I guess imagine it a different way. It's like you're a player character and you're like, oh, I really want the Warlock Initiate feat or something like that, so I can learn this spell. Instead of doing that in like a way where you're just like, I want to level up until I'm level 4 and I get my ASI.
Yeah.
It's like you're like, okay, great. How do you get that initiate feat? All right, you have to go to the Warlock Guild. They have to give you a mission. You have to complete the mission, and then they initiate you for the thing.
I love that.
Yeah, that's really cool.
100% behind.
Well, yeah, I mean, like that's another way of doing that same sort of thing. Or you're like, oh, I wanna train with a Netmaster. And it's like, okay, great. You go to the Netmaster, and then you like
Trident.
and then you like train a certain amount of days or like downtime cycles or whatever, and then you learn how to do
Those
Netmaster.
things I'm totally in.
Yeah,
Because I think what Shade was feeling friction on, and I totally understand where this came from, because I would never track it. Which is like if you said, "Oh, you love climbing monsters." Mark 5 times that you successfully climb a monster, and after that we'll figure something out.
I can't think of a single one of us that would actually fucking remember to mark it correctly and remember how many times they did it, and then life would get busy and we'd miss a couple sessions.
And I would also,
if it's the only thing that you're tracking, maybe you would.
Well, I think
sure,
so. Like
maybe,
in certain systems, yes, I think that you're correct. I think in anything that requires you to operate off of a sheet where there's many different aspects and you're tracking different play style aspects of it too, like between skills.
There's like
and other
5
stuff.
things on your sheet.
It's easier,
like...
yeah. It's like I don't know if you guys have had this experience, but during your campaign, a ton of times you'd be like, yeah, throw that in your inventory, and I'm like, oh great, and I would go to my inventory and I'd be like, special orb with mystery inside, and I'll be like, what the fuck was that? What the fuck was that?
It was
I forgot
it was a
You needed
Kinder egg.
better notes.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It was a Kinder egg.
Kinder egg, yeah. But that's the whole thing that Shade's saying, is like how much burden can you put upon a player to track all of these things?
Hey, if they forget, they forget.
And if they forget, they forget.
I
Sometimes you
100%
lose things because you can't track it in your brain. And that just happens in the game too.
I swear I wrote a note down for a game I'm in recently, 6 months ago. Cannot find that note anywhere. And it was very relevant. I'm just like, I mean, it's been 2 weeks in the game. But also, it has been 2 weeks in the game for the character. The character knows the shit. Like
No, if you forget in real life, you forget in the game.
You can't say that, Rio.
I can say anything I want.
Yeah, no, I think that like the main thing that this solves, though, is like having all these little things that you can do instead of leveling. It does solve the sort of narrative dissonance that happens when you're like, okay, we all set up a campfire in the dungeon. We're doing a quick long rest so that we can fight the boss. And it's like, okay, everyone levels.
Okay, you get attacked by 7 random encounters.
Yeah, I've been playing this game off and on called Dungeon Menu.
Okay.
And between every floor, you have to stop and camp and eat the monster parts that you just claimed.
Yeah.
Nice.
And I'm like, that's too much food.
Yeah.
That's so much food.
They're eating so much, and the food rots like
Quickly.
I mean, maybe
by the floor. And I'm just like, this. I need some salts. I need some jars.
Maybe it's like sort of. God, I lost it.
But each of and then you make a meal.
Cut that out.
And any meal that you eat, you can be like, oh, okay, I get a strength bonus for a few floors until the food bonus wears out, or I eat something else that disagrees with me.
Yeah.
And I lose stats. And it's like, every floor there's food and recipes and cooking. And if you don't cook, you lose the food. Or if you don't eat, you lose the meal. The ingredients will last, but the food somehow rots immediately.
Right.
What was my point?
No.
Yeah.
That's a little interesting tangent. Oh, about like maybe the in between floor leveling kind of thing.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes it does get overwhelming to just keep doing that.
How do you guys feel about rewarding experience points for different things and then giving out unequal experience points?
This is a great question because I find uneven leveling to be so hard to manage from an admin standpoint.
Because one player will always go, I don't know how much XP I have, and they won't have the same as anyone else at the table. So it's like, well, then you don't have any XP.
Even if you milestone them at different rates, it's like, but then there's this weird thing where somebody's doing some crazy wizard shit at level 6, and then someone else at level 5 doesn't have, or maybe even they're level 4 or level 3, they're feeling very behind and very unuseful in situations. Again, I, from a story aspect, think that could be a really cool thing to have in the game, but I don't think players enjoy it very much. What do you guys think?
Well, so I've played in a game like this.
Yeah.
And I think it just doesn't feel like it makes any sense to do it like that.
Yeah.
Because like once you get to a certain like being in an in-between state of XP points means nothing.
Yeah.
And then being at the state where you're like, oh, I have enough to level up. That's it. And then like no longer are the XP points relative. Like it doesn't. It's like
Bob's Burgers hit this topic in that episode where Louise is in her Greek mythology course, and like answer questions, get gold coins, and the gold coins at the end of every class they get to go buy a little thing.
Yeah.
But the teacher won't ever look at like the back half of the room where Louise and her 2 friends are sitting.
Yeah.
And so they don't get the coins, so they don't get the level up.
Yeah.
At the end of every session, and I really feel like if you're going to do unequal leveling, people are going to get left out and left behind. So they're not going to have the same opportunity.
That's a great metaphor, a better metaphor than I thought it was going to be, because the situation that I was in was that like you would get extra experience points, like a small amount for like RP stuff.
Yeah.
Or for like solving certain puzzles and stuff like that. And so at that point, it's kind of like, okay, well, like if I wasn't in charge of the conversation at that point,
right,
then I just don't get points for it.
Or what if like I'm just like not a very like visual puzzle person?
Yeah, like what if I'm not able?
I struggle with this.
Or just like I don't want to interact with it. I just want to do fight.
Yeah.
I just want to fight big monster.
Yeah, I just want to fight big monster. I go bang and I sneak behind thing. I shoot. I shoot good.
Yeah, I think that it's I wouldn't do it for that reason unless it was part of the story in some way and it was like an interesting. Like, oh, you're my apprentice, and so you're going to be 2 levels below me or something like that until you level up to the point where you're your own knight or something. But I just feel like because I forget where we had it, but somebody came in a level below, and I think that it just felt sort of like, to Shade said, admin-wise, it was a little tough because people were like, oh, what level are we? And so I would say 14, and someone's like, oh, I'm 15. And then someone else is like, oh, I'm a level lower or whatever.
There was like one of our ICO domes, we had some gambling.
Oh, yeah.
I think someone lost a level at something, and I was like, after a while, I was just like, you get the level back. I don't care anymore.
It's
like,
fine. Yeah, I think that for me, what I would what I would like to do there instead is maybe like your XP hits a certain point, and when your XP hits the top of the like level amount, that you then have to do something that is worthy of learning a new skill is heroic in some way, something that pushes you into the next level of hero rather than I've gained all these points. It's like, oh, I've killed all these goblins, my points are at the top. I go up and I say, Lich, duel me. And then it's like, oh, you win the duel, and then you're
Remember that episode of South Park where they just killed boars for like a year and a half?
Yeah.
And then they're like, oh, we're gods now.
Yeah. Because that's the feeling I'm trying to avoid, right?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think, Shade?
I mean, I agree with you. I don't like unequal, or
unequal. It's so easy to do.
Unequal is the word that we want, or unlevel.
Yeah.
I want to start a company and just call it Unevel.
Unevel. Unevel Incorporated.
Unevel Games. That's our new production line.
Yeah, it's fun.
Unlevel.
Yeah, I don't like when there's disparity in your leveling, and I do think that narratively, I like that idea of having to do a heroic feat at the end there.
Everyone gets a quest line for the tiers.
There's the boast mechanic from Wolves Upon the Coast, which is very fun.
What is that?
I mean, you declare something that you want to do, like
you're experiencing a boast in one of his games.
Yeah, I remember that now. But
he's gonna clear the whole dungeon.
Clear the whole dungeon.
Map the whole dungeon.
We can turn that one down so that you can actually accomplish something.
From 11 to 9.
No, down from 11 to 1. Oh, so you can actually accomplish it. So I think it's basically you boast that you're going to do something. You get a +1 to something, either to like an attack or something like that. That's like the only way to advance your stats, basically. And then once you get the bonus immediately, and then once you finish the boast, you can boast again.
Yeah.
And if you ever shirk your boast, then you can never boast again, and you lose the bonus.
Yeah. It's interesting because like Rio, you had guild levels as well. Like what your rank within the guild was for Canaries. There was the bronze, silver, gold, platinum, or whatever.
That was tiers of play.
Right, and it could be like I mean another way to handle if you feel like people are leveling too fast and you need something else to give them the feeling of progression. You could have like a system that's like a rating system within their guild, and they get better equipment or access to better information or something if they're higher levels, and when they're lower levels they have to do more themselves. You know what I mean? So like there are different ways you could do this kind of stuff.
Yeah, even with the guilds, you got better living quarters.
Yeah,
the higher up in the guild that you were.
Right.
In my current campaign too, like I think that is being represented by money because they are very rich, and at some point they sent out 3 parties of people to go investigate different like quest hooks I had given them.
Yeah,
and then I rolled to see how many of those people came back.
Yeah.
They were like, "Hey, what's up? Yeah, we're back." And I was like, I had this notion that I was like, oh, it'd be cool to like run like a separate little thing where we had like B teams and stuff like that. But then it just never coalesced. But yeah.
So I love also running the separate teams because that's really fun. You can do like sidekick rules if you're in the 5th edition stuff, but also one of my favorite things. One of my favorite things from a Final Fantasy game was Final Fantasy Tactics, which is just very good. I was trying to think of where to rank this here, but it's just very good. It has a job system, and there are hirelings, and you can send the hirelings onto there. I loved that. They always came back with like these little status reports on like how the job went. It was so cool. I really love that.
To geek it up even more.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that. I think it was in Pokemon Sun and Moon. You had the little job thing in the Poke Center where you could send your Pokemon on jobs. And they would come back, and they did a great job. You get this reward.
Oh man.
and this much XP to every Pokemon that was on the job.
Oh yeah, I think I do remember that.
Yeah, it's pretty much the
That was
exact.
cute,
That's
yeah.
the same idea. Yeah, I love that.
It's a worker placement game.
yeah.
It just gave you a reason of having Pokemon in the PC so that they could do stuff other than just sit in digital purgatory.
In prison.
Purgatory.
Assassin's Creed had that too, because you could like hire other, like introduce other people into the Assassin Brotherhood and then send them out.
and then like in Black Flag you can like have a whole fleet.
Yeah.
It's a fleet mini game. I love the fleet mini game. Just be like, yeah, I'm gonna send my ships out here, and then we're gonna do this shit.
I
Like,
can't believe nobody has cracked like naval warfare in games yet. Like one that's just about like being a pirate and having.
there
Black
is
Flag did that.
there's a few.
Well, but I'm just saying, like in this generation, like, do you have a game that you're like, this is an amazing game? Because Black Flag was good, but it was also very much single player, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you mean a video game?
They tried.
Yeah.
There have been some multiplayer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, one of the things that I really
Multiplayer is
hate
kind of
about when you get a really good system in a video game, because Shadow of Warriors did this.
Yeah.
With their orc system.
Oh, the
Yeah, the
adversary
Like, oh, I would love
thing.
that, but you can't use that
WB
anymore.
kept it. Yeah. I was gonna say to your group, Franco, that's very wealthy and setting people up. If you want to try and expand them into a new system, Ars Magica is a system that I have always wanted to actually run, because you get it's your magi or your wizard or whatever who's at the center, and they're kind of like the type of the hierarchy, but then they have like these underlings that are also in that player's stable of characters, and the wizard tower is what matters. I love that bullshit. And I think you could do a lot of fun things with your high money characters.
Yeah. There's some kind of fun stuff to do in like Frostgrave, which is a skirmish game, but you have a wizard and a wizard apprentice, and those have special functions within your squad.
That's cool.
And then the squad is like people that the wizard has hired with their money to, like, the tower has gone down and said like, you'll get 3 fighters and 3 scouts or whatever.
That's fun.
So it's kind of a skirmish game with that at its core as well.
I just had an idea, but it's about something different.
Okay.
All right. What if because I really want to play my open table game. What if I set it up so that everybody was just a high level? It's an Ico night thing, and everybody comes down, and you're like, okay, great. We want to do stuff on this island, but we don't want to do it personally because we're too powerful.
Yeah.
So we're gonna hire all these people, and that's all your characters.
Yeah.
And then anytime we want to do anything else, we just do it with the higher level.
Yeah.
We play 5e over here, and then we'll play Karen every time that I want to run it.
Again, you can also just always run a Karen game as an Ico Night. It's like,
I mean, I'm trying to backdoor things, guys. I need
right, man.
It's tough.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm going to run the one here in a couple weeks because Jackie's coming back here on the 4th, and the 5th would be our next game. I love you all, but I haven't seen Jackie in weeks, so maybe I'm not going to be there.
We'll have to push, yeah. All right. Any other thoughts around leveling or anything else before we bounce?
No.
Yeah.
Wow. Franco's done.
Shane?
Well, I do want to talk about the importance of having levels 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. No one's going to stop me. They're just going to let me
No, we're going to keep letting you go.
I'm going to stop myself. I hated it.
You have your own rope, and we're watching what you do with it.
Yeah. Hanging myself.
Yeah. All right,
We were doing so well. What a terrible note to end on. Thank you, Shane.
Oh, yeah. We really ended on a high with no.
All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening to Tabletop. We'll talk to you next Monday, but in between, if you want to get more involved, go to tabletoppod.com. There's a little form there you can fill out that will send straight to us. So if you have a question that you want us to talk about, please do that. And if you want, you can go to patreon.com/tabletop. We have bonus content there, both modules and bonus episodes. So we will see you next week. Goodbye.
Bye.